Welcome back to Ultimate S&S. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about hurricane preparedness again, guys. So if you live on the East Coast, you know hurricanes are almost a given at some point, even if it's not a hurricane, tropical storms or even severe thunderstorms come in. And that typically spawns out tornadoes and things. So even if you're not right on the coast, you know moving inland, you're going to start dealing with a lot of those tornadoes and stuff. And then even torrential downpours and stuff. And for those out on the West Coast, small tremors and stuff, we're coming into, you get heavy rains, you get dry spells, you get forest fires and things like that. You need to be prepared for that type of stuff. But the reason why is a lot of times those evacuations, they don't come out of just, you have weeks to prepare for it. It's usually they're monitoring an area. It's getting really bad and it's time to move on. So you need to make sure that you have you some bug out gear ready. Make sure that you have, depending on your family size, I would try to keep about a week's supply of food easy to be moved, because one of the things I noticed out here when Michael came through is it was about a week, almost 2 weeks before we could even get out the main roads. That's how bad it was. Oh, we did not live directly in the city. We lived out on the outskirts of town. And the only reason we even got out then is because the locals got out with chainsaws and stuff and cleared the roads. And then we had to deal with waiting for the power company to come out to move some of these old lines and stuff. It's never ideal when a storm hits, but if you prepare now, it's going to be a little better. So my suggestion, make sure you keep a little cash back, because ATMs and things like that go down. You're going to want to have that cash on hand for fuel, for motel rooms, whatever you may need when you evacuate. And try to have you some food, try to have you some water as well. That doesn't mean leave it out in the car all the time. Understand, if you're leaving food out in your car, it's not being stored properly. You have a lot of excess heat or excess cool, depending on what time of season we're in. And it's not an ideal place to store your food, in the back of your cars, whether it's your trunks or whatever. But maybe thinking, well, the trunk doesn't have windows, so it's not going to have direct sunlight. It's still very hot. I remember my very first car, 81 Firebird, did not have windows on the trunk. I don't think any car does, but you talk about hot inside that trunk come summertime, whenever you're replacing speakers and stuff like that in a car. If you have any doubt about if it's a safe area to store food, stay there a little bit, wait for the hottest part of the day, and just spend a few minutes in there. Then understand that's where your food's going to be sitting at all times. So what else can you do? Well, I will tell you this. If you have not been preparing and getting food at the store, you really need to get started. I know we say this a lot on this channel, but it does not take an SHTF scenario. I know everyone's looking for, is someone going to nuke our country or someone going to attack us and things like that. That's not even going to be required. Understand, all it takes is one more pandemic and you're going to lose your jobs. You're going to be sitting in a hard place. But if you're stacking back, you're going to have food that's going to give you some options. Understand, if you're just setting back canned food and things like that, it's going to give you some options, but it's not going to be long-term sustainability. So that's what I'm more focusing on out here a little bit. It's more of a sustainability type program. We do prep and stuff like that as well. But the main thing that I like to do is try to put back as much food as I can, but I want to make sure that I'm growing my own food. So if you grow your own food, that's a very minimal investment. Let me tell you something. When I started with quail, I kind of was like, don't really care too much about it. But it was a learning experience. Now, it's just part of the day. It literally takes, out of an entire 24-hour period, 10, 15 minutes to go out there and tend to quail. That's being on the long days when you got to clean out the nesting boxes and stuff like that. Doesn't take long to feed them, doesn't take long to water them. And that's another thing. If you live in Florida and you're keeping quail, make sure you keep plenty of fresh water out. So every few hours, someone needs to go out on these really hot days we get and dump out that hot water, put in fresh cold water. Great thing about having the well out here is there's not a shortage of cold water out here. We have 190 feet deep well. That's quite a bit of water, even for this area and stuff. So, but with the quail, it did not cost much. You can keep, I've got currently about 30 quail out there, roughly, and with them, it cost me about $18 a month in feed. It's not bad. That's a 50-pound bag of game bird feed. Game bird grower is what it's called. And they may have cheaper brands. I just buy from my local feed store rather than these large box markets, because it keeps him in business. It keeps my supply close, because he's less than a mile and a half away from where I'm at. And then you typically get good deals when you start investing into these companies and stuff that are owned locally. So I would recommend buy local if you can. If you can't, you got to get what's cheap. That's why I shop at Walmart. I know a lot of people talk crap about Walmart. I can remember as a kid, the only stores we had growing up as far as food stores was a Food Line and a Lowe's Food, and they didn't compete very well in prices, and they were expensive for their days. I remember when Walmart first came out, they had I didn't really see any food stuff in our areas, but they did have a lot of deals on a lot of items that you use in your home, and they have kind of gone downhill on the quality and up on the pricing since then. But you get what you can. Now I try to buy American when I can, but hey man, let's face it, everyone that gets in this stuff so we can do to buy American, 90% of those folks have something high dollar item that was not made in America. So I'm not going to tell you that I only buy American. I buy what I can afford, just like anybody else does in the world. If people don't like that, that's their own problem. But you need to understand a few different things that are coming up here. There is currently something called monkeypox. If you look at where those outbreaks are starting, those outbreaks are near international airport hubs. It's the same thing that happened with this last batch of pandemic crap that we had. So expect there to be some interesting things developing here in the next few days or the next few months as we come into the summer months. They don't want people out living free. They don't want people out experiencing life. They want you either at home or at work. That's it. That's all it is. There was kind of something happening here within the last decade. People were starting to make a little bit more money, and they were able to afford vacations and stuff. They were starting some of their smaller businesses and things like that. And there was actually people buying their homes, pretty much straight out. Well, they don't like that because they make money on interest. Understand, banks, the government, anything that has to deal with money, the Federal Reserve, they don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care if you own a home. All they care about is keeping you in debt so you continue to pay interest, because they make a bunch of money off of interest. We in this country, we began as a country because of it was almost 2% sales tax that was placed on tea. Think about that, 2%. And that sparked off a war. And now we're at 7% sales tax, depending on what state you're living in. That's sales tax. That's not including the state taxes. There's actually states out there that charge you a sales tax. They charge you a state tax. They charge you a county tax. They charge you a city tax. They just tax. And that's not even including the taxes that are coming out on your checks as well from the federal and the state governments and all the different little social securities and all this other stuff that most of us will never get to experience anyway. We're just going to pay into those systems for these people that are coming up into our country without following due process. And they're just handing them, here's you a life, here's you a car. There's actually states that are helping get people that are undocumented vehicles, new vehicles. That was Washington State when I was living out in Oregon. That's disgusting. There's people out working every day and they get a clunker, and then these people come up illegally and they get new cars. It's not right. Hey man, I have no problem trying to help people out, but you need to make sure that your country and the citizens within your country are actually safe and that they're actually, home, clothed, and things like that. And we have failed at that, not just as a country, but as a people. There is not a lot of compassion left in this world. Now we act like there's compassion. We like to, get in and we say, okay, well, this group of people, this demographic, they must be getting bullied. So they all gather up, they rally, and they, do their protests and things like that. And then the people that they're representing in those things, they don't even have a problem with whatever it is that they're rallying against. Usually, Washington Redskins football team, the Native American tribes in the area, they loved the team. That was their team. They loved that team. But these liberals got up there, these white college kids, and they got up there complaining about it, that it is, insensitive and things like that, and trying to get that stuff changed. And it was really making the local natives mad. And then these uneducated college kids, because they're not educated, understand, they're brainwashed. They come out and they say, well, they're too dumb to understand that this is what, that this is bad for their image. And they do the same thing with everyone that they feel is beneath them. Understand, when they're coming out, they're not coming out because they care. They're not coming out with compassion. They think that they are above everybody else. There's some kind of new evolutionary development or something like that. And they're just a bunch of brainwashed babies that cannot deal with the word no. And that's basically what it comes down to. So video is going a little bit different, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's going on. We see the lawlessness happening around us every day. We know what days we live in. We know the age of the Gentiles is coming to an end. The church age is coming to an end. Okay, that doesn't mean that it's going to be just like, everything's just going to be perfect. Understand, when you read in the Bible and it tells you about the day of the Lord and things like that, for those who are awaiting it, it is a good time. For those who are not, it is the worst time in the entire Earth's history. You don't want to be here for that stuff, folks. Trust me, you don't. But, when it comes down to getting prepared, we hold faith. I hold faith, whatever I do, is it ever going to be enough? No. It'll never be enough just relying on myself. But everything I do, I put, hold faith that it's going to prosper. And that typically, faith takes it to that next step, that next level, and that's what gets you through to that day. Right now, we're all looking at, well, I need to get a car and I'll be able to pay that off here in a few years, or I need a house. It's going to take 20 years to pay off and stuff. There's a day coming where when you get up, you're going to be waking up and you're going to have people watching, because you never really know, because we're going to be hunted down. That's what's going to happen. We already see that change happening. The Methodist Church just recently, they had a big thing where they split, the church split, all because of the flag they wanted to put up at a church. And if you believe the Bible and you believe what God's word says, then you take what he says is sin, and those things that he says don't do, we don't do. But if you're coming up and you're claiming to be a church and you're just saying whatever you can to get people in the seats, then no, you are not a church of Christ at this point. And that is not talking about a religion. That's talking about the bridegroom of Christ. You are not in that category. What you are is in a category called the synagogue of Satan. And that's what it comes down to. That doesn't mean that those are bad people. We all have sin. But the difference is we do not walk in a sinful lifestyle willingly and just ignorantly saying, you know what, we're going to do what we want to do because it's my life to do with. And it is your life to do with whatever you want to. It really is. It is your choice. But what you don't do is you don't come up and you start trying to change the world around you to follow sin, to follow the ways of sodomites and things like that, guys. And that's the way that we're headed in this world. There it talks about a new Sodom. It talks about this whore that rides the beast back, the whore of Babylon. That is America. That is who we are. We're the new Sodom. That's who we are. That is what this country has turned into. Look at what's happening. Look at commercials on the TV, trying a new live stream service. Well, it's not new, I guess. Hulu, I never really messed with it before, but has some decent movies on it. But if you go with the cheaper end, which is basically a free month supply on there, so you can check things out, every commercial has an agenda, and every agenda follows a way of sin. And that's true of any streaming service that puts ads on your stuff anymore. I don't really watch a lot of the ads that come up. Some of the ads on when I come back to view a video that we've done, it's usually cars and stuff like that, but that's probably because that's stuff I look at online. I don't know how that stuff is geared, but I heard it has to do with your search histories and stuff. So if you're getting weird stuff coming up in some of your YouTube videos as commercials, it's probably because you're looking at weird stuff in Google. So they're all kind of connected. But my advice today, stockpile supplies. Get your hurricane supplies ready, your thunderstorm supplies, your tornado supplies, your earthquake supplies, mudslides, fires, whatever part of the country. Make sure you were stocked up, because they are saying this is going to be one of the hottest summers. Think about that. It's going to be one of the hottest summers. It's not going to be as much rainfall coming into main part of summer. And it's already been super dry on the West Coast. It's been crazy dry across this country with wildfires burning thousands of acres of land. It's just, probably into the tens of thousands by this point. I think it was over 15,000 acres. That's a lot of land that burned just in California, Oregon. That's not including the other states along the West Coast. And it's probably even higher than that, because like I say, that number's been, that was from last year. So get food now, man. Go to the store, get what you can. Don't buy stuff that's going to go out in a week. Buy stuff that's going to last at least a year. You can look at those sell-by dates. Understand, that says what? Sell-by. That's a sell-by date. That's when they have to sell it out. Now, you can do some research online and learn how to properly store for your state. Understand, if I tell you how to do it here in Florida, it's not going to help you at all. So what do I do here in Florida? I look for cool, low humidity. That's what I look for. Closet spaces, under closets, under beds. whatever it is, the coolest part of the house where you want to keep your stuff at. You don't want to take it outside. You don't want to put it in a building that's going to be 120 degrees in the summertime. It's going to make all that stuff spoil. It's going to be bad, and then you've wasted money. So make sure that you store your stuff properly if you can. I would be looking at these solar generators, guys. And if you go over to Survival Living, I am not an affiliate with them, so I don't provide links and stuff. But if you go over to Survival Living, he's got in every description of a video, he has all this different stuff that he is partnered up with. And you can get a lot of these like solar panels. They come with a panel and a big charge box and all that stuff. And they're awesome because it charges them by solar. You charge them up before the storm gets there, and you're going to have 110 volt power supply. Okay, it says it's 120. Most stuff pulls 110, but you'll have standard power for your house. That'll run, mini fridges and stuff like that. Pretty good. Now, you're going to need a lot of them if you're going to be running deep freeze and things like that. Now, if those deep freezes are already frozen and everything is looking good in there and you're hooked to that, you're probably not going to be running that compressor as much. But what you don't want to do is go buy a new deep freeze, hook it into the thing, and then be complaining because the compressor is running always. It's not a good thing to do. In fact, I would actually recommend buying a propane refrigerator, propane powered, has 12 volt system on it, and then you don't have to deal with that AC. And that's just me, guys, but it's totally up to you however you want to do it. Get you some generators that have gasoline generators, that have diesel generators. Personally, I look for a generator that is going to have really good fuel filters, really good oil filters. That's going to be the life of your generator. My RV has a very large Onan generator. It's been set up to be EMP proofed and stuff like that as well with the RV. And those diesels, they run great. They run awesome, but you got to keep it maintained. And after storm season, you need to be maintaining, getting those ready to store before storm season kicks. Like right now, we're right here at the beginning and the opening of it for us on the East Coast. We need to be getting our generators and making sure that we're servicing them, changing the oils, making sure everything's good. Start them up. You need to start those things up. Why? Well, because you want to make sure that there's nothing fouled up in spark plugs, or that you don't have an injector stuck if you're using diesel. There's so many different things that we need to do with that, guys. So I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I believe it's Tuesday now, something like that. But anyway, I got a lot of work to do with the chickens and getting out in the garden, because we got some stuff that looks like it's done. I've planted some new stuff out there, and I'm going to be working on the other side, getting that built up a little bit so I can actually put in some more zucchini plants, some more squash plants, some more this golden zucchini stuff I've got, and I want to put in some more tomato plants as well, things that are heavy producers right now. And the best way to do that is to just get out and do it, guys. There's nothing I'm going to be able to tell you that's going to make it easier other than this. If you don't own a tiller, you can rent one. I'm not telling you to go buy a $500 or $600 tiller. I'm telling you rent one for $30 a day at a parts place. There's a lot of different places that'll rent them out. You might even check Tractor Supply. They used to rent them. It's been a few years. I don't know if they still do or not, but you need to get you some sort of a tiller or something. If you're hand tilling, let me tell you, man, I don't keep a very big garden, but if I was having to break that up and build rows by hand, that would be a very miserable couple days. Very miserable, because I can do it in like 10 minutes with a tiller versus working on that thing all week. In fact, what I've learned here recently too is between the rows, once your plants get a certain size, instead of having to come down through there with a hoe, man, let it grow a couple weeks. Don't let it get knee high, but let it grow. And then come in with your tiller right between the rows, keep enough room between rows, and just come in lightly with a tiller, and it just rips all that stuff right up, rake it out of the way, and you're good to go. So there's a few little tips for you, everyone. Hope everyone has a wonderful day.